Venezuelan state authorities rejected the recent imposition of unilateral coercive measures by the United States as an attempt against the country's peace and sovereignty. In Colombia, President Gustavo Petro denounced that a coup d'état is being prepared against his government. And the first troops from Jamaica and Belize for the multinational security support mission arrived in Port-au-Prince on Thursday and on Friday to join the 400 agents from Kenya who are already in Haiti. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Venezuela, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ivan Gil, summoned the ambassador of Spain in the country, Ramon Santos, to express the government's firm stance in the face of any interference. During an official communique, Gil assured the Ministry of Foreign Affairs summoned Ambassador Santos to express the strong position of the Venezuelan government, which will not allow any interference by the government of Spain in matters that are the exclusive competence of Venezuelan men and women. The Venezuelan government will adopt the necessary measures within the framework of international law and the Bolivarian diplomacy of peace to protect its sovereignty. The Bolivarian National Armed Forces of Venezuela rejected the recent imposition of unilateral coercive measures by the United States on high-ranking Venezuelan officials. In response to the recent coercive measures, the Minister of Defense warned that the Bolivarian Armed Forces are unbreakable and will continue defending the democracy in Venezuela. In this sense, Padrino Lopez asserted that the members of the ministry will remain faithful to the Venezuelan sovereignty. The Defense Minister assured that the agents of the Bolivarian National Armed Forces have no price and will remain united and on alert to defend the sovereignty. The Supreme Court of Justice of Venezuela rejected the sanctions imposed against national government officials by the United States. On Friday, Washington sanctioned 16 officials, among them 5 magistrates of the Supreme Court and rectors of the National Electoral Council for allegedly obstructing the presidential voting process of July 28th. In response, the President of the Supreme Court of Justice, Carislia Rodriguez, pointed out that this practice collides with the accepted principles of international law on self-determination and democracy. Furthermore, the TSG President reaffirmed that the entity has always been a promoter of peace in the country, whose decisions have been backed by the national legal system in order to guarantee the tranquility of the nation. The President of the Supreme Court of Justice of Venezuela, Carislia Beatriz Rodriguez, offered statements in rejection of the sanctions imposed by the Office of Foreign Assets Control of the U.S. Treasury Department against Venezuelan individuals.
The Supreme Court of Justice of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, on behalf of the entire judiciary, once again repudiates the interfering action of the United States of America in the internal affairs of the Republic by imposing unilateral and illegitimate and illegal coercive measures on 16 Venezuelan officials, among which are the magistrates Carislia Beatriz Rodriguez Rodriguez, Fanny Beatriz Márquez Cordero, Inocencio Antonio Figueroa, Malaquía Gil Rodríguez, and Juan Carlos Hidalgo Pandare, as well as Judge Edward Miguel Briceño Cisneros.
Furthermore, the head of the Venezuelan judiciary expressed her solidarity with the national public powers in the face of the imperial onslaught of the United States government.
For this reason, the words of our Libertador Simón Bolívar seem fitting, and I quote, "The United States seem destined by Providence to plague America with miseries in the name of freedom." End of quote. Likewise, the judiciary expresses its solidarity with the other national public powers that today have been attacked and insulted by the imperial onslaught, ratifying its commitment to peace, sovereignty, and independence of our beloved Venezuela.
The National Electoral Council of Venezuela, CNE, issued a statement to repudiate the act of interference committed by the government of the United States of America as it tries to point out and intimidate a group of Venezuelan public servants through illegal unilateral coercive measures. According to the statement, the electoral power of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela repudiates the infamous act of interference committed by the government of the United States of America, with which it is trying to point out and intimidate a group of Venezuelan public servants through illegal unilateral coercive measures promoted by criminal groups linked to terrorism, drug trafficking and other crimes who have allied with you and other corrupt structures to finance operations against the Venezuelan electoral system and its members. Later on, the electoral authority stated that the United States of America has one of the most pathetic and obsolete electoral systems on the planet. For this reason, the U.S. government lacks the moral authority to evaluate and give its opinion on electoral issues, much less in Venezuela, where there is an electoral system with the highest global standards. Attempting to blackmail the members of the National Electoral Council is a crude maneuver that has failed before. No illegal sanction against the institution has distanced it from its constitutional mandate. The Venezuelan electoral power is today firm, united, and stronger than ever. Finally, the communique ended by demanding that the government of the United States not to get involved in the internal affairs of the Venezuelan electoral power, and we urge it to dedicate itself to attend the internal affairs of its country, and ended by reminding that Venezuela is a sovereign country that only obeys the will of the people of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. The National Assembly of Venezuela condemned and rejected through an official statement the unilateral and coercive measures announced against Venezuelan individuals by the United States government. According to the statement, the National Assembly of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela condemns and rejects in the strongest terms the continuous and permanent aggression by the supremacist government of the United States of America, this time by imposing unilateral coercive measures against dignified and courageous Venezuelan public servants, such as the first Vice President of the National Assembly, Deputy Pedro Infante. It follows by stating, "We express our deep solidarity with the decent Venezuelans who were attacked by this new and illegitimate action of the imperialist hegemony against our homeland and our institutions. And we tell the decadent United States of American empire and its European satellites that no unilateral coercive measures will stop the libertarian and independent path of the Venezuelan people that they have chosen." The communique closes by declaring that the National Assembly demands full respect for the institutionalism of the country, and we reiterate before the world that more than 200 years ago we ceased to be a colony thanks to the will and struggle of our people, and therefore do not accept nor will accept the interference of foreign powers in our internal affairs, nor any neo-colonial subordination. On Friday, the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America's People's Trade Treaty, ALBA TCP, released a statement condemning the new unilateral coercive measures imposed by the U.S. government on Venezuelan citizens. According to the communique, the member states of the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America People's Trade Treaty, ALBA TCP, categorically reject the new imposition of unilateral coercive measures by the government of the United States on Venezuelan nationals. It follows today Venezuela has 16 nationals unilaterally sanctioned for the simple fact of fulfilling their duties and basically for being Venezuelans and not acting to benefit the Venezuelan political sector, which is well known for being extremist and fascist and has always claimed to be in favor of interventionism and the violation of international law rather than assuming its defeat. The statement emphasizes these measures not only attack the 16 sanctioned individuals, this criminal and illegal practice of the U.S. government against the states that do not work in favor of its interests alters the economic and political stability of this country and the entire region. Finally, the communique states, ALBA TCP strongly repudiates this new attack against public officials, their human and civil rights, and the Venezuelan nation in general, which threatens the peace and tranquility of all Latin America and the Caribbean, and calls on regional governments to reject this measure and to promote diplomacy and respect for self-determination of the peoples, and closes by emphasizing that the Bolivarian Alliance demands respect for the sovereignty of the free peoples of our America and the Caribbean, and reaffirms its unrestricted support and solidarity with the people and government of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Army General and leader of the Cuban Revolution, Raúl Castro, and Cuba's President Miguel Díaz-Canel sent Friday their congratulations to Nicaragua's President and Vice President Daniel Ortega and Rosario Murillo, respectively, on occasion of the 203rd anniversary of Nicaragua's independence from the Spanish colonialism. The message was sent in an official letter where the Cuban leaders said that the independence of the sister nation opened a long road of struggles by the Nicaraguan people, which was consolidated with the Sandinista revolution. Castro and Díaz-Canel also expressed their all-out support and solidarity to the Sandinista revolution and affirmed their conviction that the Nicaraguan people will continue advancing towards Latin American unity. In Colombia, President Gustavo Petro denounced that a coup d'état is being plotted against his government. The president noted that the allegations against him are a reflection of a coup d'état that is being plotted by illegitimate administrative entities. Petro is being accused of allegedly having surpassed the expenditure ceilings in the electoral campaign that led him to office. Petro stated that the target of such claim is to remove him from power by means of assassination or political destitution in the next 3 months and replace him with the President of the Senate, Efraín Cepeda. In this way, he denounced that there are economic interests to produce a political process of destitution of the legitimate president of the country.
The coup d'etat is not the generals of the police and the army looking for a way to take the palace and remove the president. No, the oligarchs of this country are not so naive. It is a Colombian-style coup d'etat. First, they disqualify the president that the Constitution protected. Over the Constitution, there is already a coup d'etat. The president's immunity was granted to prevent any administrative instance from judging him. And today, I am being judged by an illegitimate administrative instance.
Brazilian authorities in Manaus, capital of the state of Amazonas, declared an emergency situation due to the drought affecting the Negro River and are implementing countermeasures. The state of emergency begins on Monday, September 16th, with the first phase of Operation Drought in compliance with a decree with the delivery of basic supplies, food baskets and kits for families in the communities of the Negro and Amazonas rivers. At least 7,700 families will benefit, corresponding to almost 25,000 people from 93 riverside communities in the capital. In Vietnam, rescue teams found alive 123 people who had gone missing after Typhoon Yagi hit the northern region. Authorities reported that 115 residents of Co Vang village fled in the middle of the night into the mountains as they had detected signs of an imminent landslide, which would eventually bury several houses in their area. Thus, they had been registered as missing for several days until rescue teams found them after an intensive search. Hours later, 8 more survivors were located in New Village, where a landslide destroyed 37 homes. As of Friday, the death toll from the aftermath aftermath of Typhoon Yagi has reached 233, while 103 are still missing. We have a second show break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final show break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Panama recognizes the relatives of the January 9 martyrs 60 years after the heroic deed in which students from the National Institute crossed the fence that divided the U.S.-dominated Canal Enclave from the rest of the country. There are conflicting opinions. Our colleague Rekha Chandiramani tells us about it.
The government of Panama began to pay an annuity to the relatives of the martyrs and survivors of the January 9, 1964 heroic deed, which left 22 Panamanians dead after the struggle to plant the Panamanian flag at the Balboa School in the former Canal Zone, which was controlled until 1999 by the United States.
In part, we see the positive point to those who really deserve it. But another part is the way to clean the image of the governments that did not fulfill the obligation to solve the fact of those boys. Because today many have already disappeared, and supposedly it would be those who did not participate who would have benefits, which gives a positive and negative balance.
On that day began the heroic deed that lasted several days, when the U.S. military forces stationed in the Canal Zone repressed the students of the National Institute, who jumped over the fence of the enclave to demand compliance with the treaty in force and the raising of the Panamanian flag together with the American flag in the Canal Zone. Most of the martyrs were students of the National Institute, the so-called Eagle's Nest.
What did the government do years later so that there would be no way to remember those events? They came and changed the school year, and then they began to end it in December, so that on January 9th there were no students in the classrooms and there was no seed. All that to eliminate the historical memory. We also see later that there was the chair of relations between Panama and the United States. A lady who is from Cologne, by the way, and is currently the Minister of Education again, said that the problems that existed with the United States had already passed and that this chair should be eliminated. There is a systematic approach to eliminate the anti-imperialist struggle of our people.
Esta fecha es considerada por luchadores sociales como la verdadera fecha de la recuperación.
This date is considered by social fighters as the true date of the recovery of sovereignty, which materialized on December 31st, 1999 with the transfer of the canal into the hands of the Panamanian government. This economic recognition by the state to the Panamanian martyrs comes 60 years late and leaves a bittersweet taste to many, especially to the victims of the invasion, who 25 years after this gesture, returned to feel the U.S. military power without the Panamanian state has been able to cipher, much less to recover the bodies of all the dead.
Para teleSUR, desde Ciudad de Panamá, Rekha Chandiramani.
The first troops from Jamaica and Belize for the Multinational Security Support MSS mission arrived in Port-au-Prince on Thursday and on Friday to join the 400 agents from Kenya who are already in Haiti. On the Jamaican side, a contingent of 20 military and 4 police officers arrived at the Toussaint Louverture International Airport in the Haitian capital on Thursday, as the country is committed to support the MSS mission. Meanwhile, 2 Belizean soldiers were welcomed on Friday in Haiti on behalf of the goodwill of their government. Authorities expect another 2,500 military and police officers to back the MSS up in the near future. MSS Commander Godfrey Ontich was grateful for the aid received. In Palestine, the Israeli genocidal army committed a new war crime by attacking the Al-Mawasi humanitarian areas south of the Gaza Strip, killing dozens of Palestinian civilians. In an Israeli incursion into an apartment in the Al-Mawasi area, claimed at least 5 lives on a family, including 2 children. In addition, 7 Gazans couldn't survive the bombings dropped on the refugee camp on Nuseirat and the southern city of Rafah. In this context, on Friday, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees in the Near East, UNRWA, announced that airstrikes killed 18 Palestinians at the Joni school on Wednesday evening, as the place had been working as a polio vaccination center for the past week. Hundreds of Palestinians bid farewell to the remains of 5 people killed by the Israeli army in 2 baths in the occupied West Bank. This way, relatives and residents of the murdered young men mourned their lives in a funeral ceremony held on Friday. The victims died 2 days ago during an Israeli drone attack. The occupation army withdrew on Thursday evening from the towns of Tulkarem and Tubas and nearby refugee camps after having besieged both neighborhoods for several days. These aggressions are part of a wider Israeli offensive that has been going on for weeks in the occupied Palestinian territory and which has claimed at least 50 lives. The government of Cuba offered 200 scholarships for Palestinian students to complete undergraduate and graduate education on the island in the coming years. The announcement was made on Wednesday afternoon when Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel Bermudez received the ambassador of the State of Palestine, Dr. Akram Mohammed Shamhan, who ends his diplomatic mission in the Caribbean nation. The Palestinian diplomat thanked the Cuban president for the support of his country's students, whom Cuba had been protecting and supporting. Currently, 250 students from Palestine are studying in the Caribbean island, pursuing undergraduate and postgraduate studies in different higher education centers. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok. With teleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.